Let's just get right into this video. The first habit that is destroying your sleep is not getting enough. This is the most obvious one. I just want to get it out of the way right in the beginning. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be tired, you're not going to be properly rested, you're not going to be recovering and building as much muscle, you're also literally not going to have as much energy for every single thing you do in that day, which is going to affect your relationships, the conversations that you have, the work that you do. Sleep is so important because it affects everything that you do. If it's done right, it can be a natural buff. It can make all of your life better, but if it's neglected, everything in your life gets worse. The solution is to have a bedtime that you stick to every single night. I know it's easy to stay up on your phone and to not go to bed when you know you should, or to watch Netflix or something. But when you're doing that, you're literally just ruining the next day for your future self. You are making the entirety of your next day worse. The solution is to have a bedtime that you stick to every single night, because you know that you're gonna have to wake up at a certain time. If it's for school or if it's for work, you know that you have a certain time that you have to wake up. If you go back at least 8 hours or maybe 9 hours from that time, that's your bedtime. You've probably heard that looking at screens or blue light is bad for you when you're trying to go to bed. And that is true, but what you probably didn't know is that viewing bright overhead lights, like the lights that you have on your ceiling, that is also really bad for your sleep. The reason both of these things are bad for your sleep is because your brain thinks that this light coming from your ceiling is the sun. It thinks that this bright light is sunlight, so it means it must be daytime. Even if it's pitch black outside, if you're looking at your phone or if there's bright lights above your head, your brain thinks it's not time to go to sleep. Because one of the main ways that your brain is able to understand what time of day it is through light. The best thing to do when it gets dark is to turn off all the overhead lights in your room, in your house, and optimally you have an hour before bed that you don't look at any screens, you're not looking at anything. But I know for a lot of people that's not reasonable, so the best alternative to that would be to turn on night shift on your phone or the night light on your computer. It changes the color and the brightness of the screen so that it doesn't affect your sleep as much. The third destructive habit is being inactive. Not going to the gym, not working out, not going on runs, literally just staying inside most of the day, sitting on your ass on your computer. Something that I've noticed is that every single time I'll either have a rest day or this day I don't work out or jump rope or do anything, I feel very, very anxious. I have this feeling of restlessness where I really just want to get out of the house. If you go to the gym or work out a lot, you know that those rest days where you aren't doing anything, where you're at home all day being inactive, you feel like shit. Even though you would think that going to the gym would make you feel really tired and that you would have no energy after you come home. On those days where I'm resting or I didn't really do any exercise, when I go to sleep, it's so much harder to fall asleep. I really need that feeling of tiredness and soreness for me to easily fall asleep. Becoming more active will help you fall asleep so much faster. If you're not going to the gym, if you're not exercising or doing a sport or anything, it's gonna greatly decrease the quality of your sleep. It's gonna make it harder for you to fall asleep, and it's gonna make it harder for you to get into deep sleep. And working out, just like sleep, is one of those things that improves everything in your life. If you're inactive and if you stay inside a lot of the day and you scroll for hours and hours and just lay in your bed or sit in your chair on your computer and play video games, if you start hitting the gym, if you start doing a sport or getting at least some exercise, some walking even, that will improve your sleep immensely. But not just your sleep, your mental health, your physical health, and how you feel every single day. The fourth destructive habit that is ruining your sleep is not getting enough sunlight. We all know that sunlight's really good for you, for vitamin D, for just your health in general. What you probably didn't know is that your circadian rhythm is heavily affected by light exposure, because it is a big indicator to your brain that when you're getting sunlight in your eyes, it's a certain time of day. If you get that morning sunlight, your brain knows, okay, it's the morning. So it sets your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, to know which time later that day you're going to need to go to sleep, that you're going to start feeling more tired. If you don't get enough sunlight, your brain doesn't know when to release melatonin. It doesn't know when to make you start feeling sleepy. And so falling asleep is going to be much harder, and also getting into deep sleep, REM sleep, is going to be so much harder. Because your brain, your internal clock, it doesn't know. It doesn't know if it's the morning or the afternoon. That's why I said earlier, the bright lights. If you turn on bright lights above your head, that's your brain thinking that it's the sun. It thinks that it's the day. Andrew Huberman explains this concept very well. What he says is that your brain is basically in a dark room. It's encapsulated in your skull. So it has no idea what's going on in the outside world. And one of the only ways it can understand what time you need to go to bed or what time in the day it is through getting light in your eyes. And so when you don't get enough sunlight, especially in the mornings and also in the afternoons, then your brain has no idea when you need to go to bed. Your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, is going to be messed up. The fifth habit that is negatively affecting your sleep is having an inconsistent sleep schedule. I know a lot of people say that scrolling helps them fall asleep, that it helps them like go to bed and relax and wind down, but it's doing the opposite of that. Even if you think that it's not affecting your sleep and that you wake up and it's completely fine, it is. If you want to get better sleep, do not look at your phone in bed, do not look at it before bed. The best thing that you can probably do, if you can, is to turn off everything like an hour before you go to bed. To take that time to wind down, to get ready for bed, and then falling asleep and getting into deep sleep will be much easier. Not going to bed at the same time, getting different amounts of sleep, waking up at a different time every single day, it's not making your body happy. Your internal circadian rhythm, your inner clock, wants your body to do the same thing every night. It likes habit. Your sleep loves habit. This inconsistency has been found to cause higher rates of diabetes, obesity, depression, all these bad things. And it goes back to what I said earlier. If you neglect sleep, it makes everything in your life worse, but when you focus on improving it, it makes everything in your life better. It is so crucially important, do not overlook it. If you were to wake up and go to bed at the same time every single night, your body knows exactly when you should be and when you're going to be in bed and when you're going to wake up. So your body is going to do what it should be doing at a specific time when you're going to bed and then when you're waking up. But when you have an inconsistent sleep schedule, your body, your circadian rhythm, it has no idea. It doesn't know exactly when to release certain chemicals. It doesn't know exactly when you are going to be in bed, because if it's different every single night, if you're staying up later certain nights, waking up at a different time, snoozing your alarm, this is making your body, your circadian rhythm, messed up. Another thing that's important is to use your bed only for sleep, so that your body knows when you get into bed, it's time for sleep, it's time to relax. Because when you're in your bed all the time, maybe you're scrolling, or maybe you're just like watching Netflix or something, what you're signaling is it's also a time for you to like scroll, watch Netflix, do all these other activities. It's not just a place for sleep. It will make it much easier for you to fall asleep, and it will actually be better for your health if you just make it a place for sleep. Because your brain will start to associate being in bed with being awake and scrolling and doing these other activities that aren't sleep. But how do you actually get good sleep? How do you improve your sleep? Well, if you just stop doing all these entire things, that's gonna obviously make your sleep much better, but there are also other habits that are going to improve your sleep. Obviously, one of them is getting more sunlight, especially in the morning. Andrew Huberman is so big on getting your morning sunlight exposure, and for good reason. Getting like that 5 minutes of sunlight every single morning is probably one of the best things that you can do for your health and for your sleep. And it also is just extremely easy, so there's no reason not to. So what happens when you go get sunlight in your eyes in the morning, don't look directly at the sun, but look in the direction of it. When you get like 5, 10, 15 minutes, it depends on how sunny or how cloudy it might be, that actually releases a spike of cortisol in your body. When you get that spike and when you trigger it 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up, it actually is going to improve your circadian rhythm and also help you become more awake faster. The best type of lights that you can use are ones that are below your eyes, so they're below eye level, they're not above your head. And the best ones are probably candles, because they actually have a very, very low light intensity. But they're also pretty bright, and they can give you the amount of light that you need at night to do whatever you're doing. Something else that's important is to have time to wind down. So obviously some people aren't going to have a ton of time for them to like not be doing anything, but there should be a point in the day where you're like done working, you're done doing homework, you're done doing any work, and you're shutting off for the night. I like to have an hour at the end of my day where I shut everything off. I have no computers, no screens, and I turn off all the lights and everything. I usually actually do that before, like a couple hours before when the sun goes down. I'll brush my teeth, do all that stuff and whatever, and I'll usually journal a little bit, and then I'll go to bed, and I'll usually be pretty tired by then. If you go straight from looking at a screen to going to bed, your brain is still going to be very stimulated, and it's going to be hard for you to fall asleep. So try to have a chunk of time where you wind down and get ready for bed. Something else that affects your circadian rhythm is temperature. Besides light, this is the thing that affects your circadian rhythm the most. So at night when you're going to bed, it is extremely important for your body to like cool down a couple degrees so that you can actually fall into sleep. And then in the morning, you have to increase a couple of degrees for you to wake up. That's why if you've ever been really hot at night and you're like tossing and turning and like throwing off your covers, it's extremely hard to fall asleep. So try to make your room very cool at night. Maybe that means opening up your window for a little bit, making your room kind of cold. And the certain habit stack that I like to do in the morning that I also got from Andrew Huberman is using cold exposure, exercise, and sunlight. So I already told you about getting morning sunlight. That is very, very important. what I like to do is I like to jump rope while I get my morning sunlight exposure. When you are exercising, it's going to warm your body up, it's going to get your body moving, so you're going to wake up a lot faster. And when you take a cold shower, and I explain this in my video where I go over kind of everything that's really important about cold showers, after you get out, your body temperature goes up. Because since there was a bunch of like cold waters touching your skin, your core body temperature, your internal body temperature is going to fight to increase. This is also good for waking up and for your circadian rhythm. So tools in the morning are sunlight, exercise, cold exposure, and at night have time to wind down. If you got value from this video, please subscribe. Scroll down right now and click on the subscribe button. Join our movement of teenagers who are trying to improve, who don't want to be the average. You should come along with us as we make our way to the top. Never stop improving. You'll be grateful for it later.